Thank you for coming to tonight's event for Family Week titled Bringing Your Family, Engaging Families of First Generation College Students. We're going to give it just a couple of quick moments to allow participants to join in before we start. Awesome, great. So at this point, we're going to be starting recording tonight's event to be able to share this information for others who are unable to make it with us tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Family Week event discussing first generation college student support and success. My name is Amie Archambault. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director within the Office of Multicultural Education. Tonight, I'll be serving as both the moderator as well as jumping in on specific questions around resources here at Holy Cross for supporting first generation college students. I'm here with a panel of colleagues and alumni from Holy Cross to dive into resources we have on campus, as well as on the Hill and beyond. We have a series of questions we'll be working through, but please at any time, I'm asking participants to drop questions in the Q&A box and we'll do our best to work through them. At this time, I'll welcome and introduce the panelists. Can you each share your name, pronouns, role or career, and maybe a 30-second elevator pitch that connects you to the topic at hand tonight. I'll start it off with David.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Rodriguez. I'm a member of the class of 2019. I was a psychology major, Italian minor on the pre-health studies track. I was a co-chair of HG First Scholars, which is the first generation student organization at Holy Cross my senior year. And as I was graduating almost 2 years ago now, I started the HG First Alumni Affinity Group, so that Holy Cross students who are first generation have an affinity group to come back together to after they finish their time on the Hill. And I will pass it on to Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Saintelus, Director of Academic Services and Learning Resources at the college. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And my office oversees a program called Passport, which happens to support a lot of first generation college students. And those students end up participating in the mentor program, which is for first generation college students, students of color, international students, and those eligible for the Pell Grant. So I work with first generation students. It's a population of students that I'm passionate about because I myself identify or was a first generation college student as well.
And I am Professor Jorge Santos. I am from Houston, Texas. I am a first generation everything, first born in the United States, first to go to college, first to get an advanced degree, first to leave Texas and live somewhere else. I teach in the English department focused on 20th century American literature, multi-ethnic literature, and graphic novels. And I have been a member of HC First and every version of HC First since I got here because I'm very passionate about being first gen. I wear it on my sleeve. So I'm very happy to be here and very eager to get started.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for that. So before we jump into the panel discussion, I wanted to start off by defining first generation college students. So if you're first in your family to attend college, you are a first generation college student. This is still true if any of your siblings have completed their bachelor's degree at a four-year institution. Here at Holy Cross, 16% of our students on campus are first in their family to attend college. So in coming to Holy Cross, you're going to be joining in an amazing community of folks. And so with that, I want to kick it off with our first question for the panelists. You talked a little bit about this already, but within each of your roles on campus, how do you engage with first generation college students?
I'll start, if nobody minds. Well, teaching puts me in contact with a number of students, right? But a lot of them is just going to where they are, right? So coming to events like this, so I'm a friendly face. As Amie will tell you, I don't think I've missed an HC First thing. In fact, when you asked me to be this, I didn't even ask what I was going to be doing today. It's just like, all right, when is it? And I'll be there. And so a lot of that is just kind of word of mouth. I try to be a very vocal, like well-known quantity in that sense. And I often encourage first-gen students, even if they're not English students, to come meet me in my office and we can just chat. For me, it's always been personally fulfilling because as a first-gen myself, I want to work with other first-gen. If for no other reason, to meet people who have a background similar to me, it's very humanizing for me as well. So the short answer to that is wherever you are, I'll come find you. Although that sounds weirdly aggressive.
As I mentioned before, so my office, Academic Services and Learning Resources, exists to support all students, but my office also oversees the Passport program, which invites students from a variety of backgrounds to engage in an academic experience throughout the summer before their first year on the Hill. And so that is usually the first time I get to engage with a lot of our first generation college students. And then we have continuing meetings and workshops throughout the semester that all students are also invited to participate. And as I mentioned, my office actually co-directs the mentor program with the Office of Multicultural Education, which Amie is a part of. And so we have a number of first generation students participating in that program, and they're paired with a peer mentor. David was a peer mentor when he was on the Hill as well. And really the purpose of these programs is to ensure that students have a community, are set up for success. When they join the community, know about helpful resources on campus, which we'll talk about soon, and just are familiar with people who share similar experiences like myself. Like Dr. J, I'm very passionate about being a first generation college student. So however I can support students, I do, right? So also serving on the First Gen Student Success Committee with Amie is something I'm really excited about, just thinking of ways we can be supportive during your time on the Hill, just reflecting on my own experience as a first gen student, what would have been helpful to me. So I'm really excited to work with this particular group or population of students.
Yeah, kind of Kelly and Dr. J hinted at, as a first generation student, I was drawn to practically my entire friend group were also first gen students because, we're all going through the same experience at the same place. It was easy to connect. And while on my time at the Hill, I was a peer mentor my senior year. So I did have a group of first generation students that I helped mentor throughout their first year, which is really rewarding, kind of helping them get through everything, making sure that they didn't go through the same struggles that I did. And kind of like as Kelly pointed out, they know what resources and what people and what places they can go to if they need support. The other places you can interact with first gen students is there's another summer program called Odyssey. When I was entering Holy Cross, I was invited to do Odyssey, and that's where I met a lot of my other friends as well as my other classmates and upperclassmen who were also first generation identifying. And then kind of now that I've left and become an alumnus of the school, my interactions are still with some of like my mentees and other of the students that I used to work with and I know, and touching base with them like here and there, but as well as trying to, engage alumni to kind of come back and talk with students, or perhaps, if there's a job opening at their specific company, kind of sharing that with other alumni. But if it involves like, someone who's graduating, sending that to Amie so that she can share that within, our first generation community on the Hill, so that those students can also have an opportunity to, apply and hopefully get a job and have some stable footing as they graduate.
Great, thank you all so much. So we talked a little bit about some of the resources already. So with that, I just want to formally recognize some of the resources at Holy Cross, which offer support and success for first generation college students. Kelly, I'll have you kick it off. I will follow up. And then David, I'm actually going to ask, what of these resources was most helpful for you during your time on campus?
Great, thanks, Amie. So my office, Academics Services and Learning Resources, as I said, exists to support all students. And some of the ways that we do that is by offering academic success workshops throughout the semester, which focus on time management, study skills, a variety of topics that are really designed to help you be academically successful in and outside of the classroom, or successful outside of the classroom as well. So some of our key programs include tutoring, which is the STEM plus E workshop, which aims to support students in our quantitative courses. So if you're taking an intro to biology class or a chemistry class and you need some extra support there, it's free tutoring available to all students. And it's a wonderful resource. I highly, highly recommend students engage in that. We also have a program called Peer Assistance Learning, which is PAL. It's based off the principles of supplemental instruction. So if you're taking an intro to chemistry class and maybe you're a little confused or you just need a little bit extra support, you just want to build community within your class section, it's an opportunity to attend weekly sessions that cover some of the topics you learned in class. In addition to that, outside my office, we partner very closely with the Center for Writing, and there's the Writers Workshop. So students who are looking for a second pair of eyes on any of the papers that they're writing in any of their classes, right? And the Writers Workshop is amazing because they can work with students at any stage of the writing process, right? Whether you have an outline or a draft, or you just need someone to help you with organization, they can help you there as well. Other academic resources would include obviously the library. We have really helpful research librarians who can help you with research, obviously, but papers as well. And then, of course, we work closely with the Office of Accessibility Services for students who may need accommodations. There's a variety of different accommodations a student might need, but those are some of the academic resources. But of course, we always connect students to other resources on campus, such as the resources that Amie will probably talk about in Office of Multicultural Education. But just know that there are resources out there. And if you're not sure, what you need, we have people on campus who can point you in the right direction.
Thank you, Kelly, for, I was gonna say, thank you, Kelly, for kicking that off. The first resource I would like to highlight to supplement what Kelly was sharing, I'm gonna drop it in the chat box for attendees. That is our first generation college student Holy Cross website. This is brand new, about a year, and we are continuously updating this with programs, resources, and there'll be even more this summer if you check back in. So that's really a hub that is a landing page for folks that if you have no idea what is going on or where to start, this would be my first thing, is to bookmark this website. On one of the breakout pages from that website is a first generation student success resource. You can download that, it's a PDF. We'll also be updating that soon, ready and prepared for this summer. But that is kind of a snapshot of a bunch of resources to help support students at their time on campus. Kelly shared a little bit about the Passport program, and David mentioned it, but the next resource that I would highlight, particular for prospective students or incoming first-year students, if you're in the class of 2025 looking at Holy Cross, our Odyssey program, which is a summer program for first-year students who are first-generation college students, students of color, or eligible for the Pell Grant. And it helps these students build relationships with their peers and fellow students, faculty, administrators, and start to get familiar with the resources in the local community. The next resource that I'm happy to oversee in the Office of Multicultural Education is our lending library. I'll talk a little bit about this later, but our lending library is a free textbook rental program on campus. We have over 1,600 books that are donated here. You just have to request books for your semester. You're able to borrow them, and with just the expectation that you return them so that more students, we're able to help more students each semester. David talked a little bit about this. Our HC First Scholars is our first generation college student organization on campus. So this is a group of folks who identify as first gen and are really taking that leadership role and putting on programs and events all across campus to engage their community and their peers. That includes, we have mentor dinners, we have specific programs during Financial Aid Awareness Month to help support their students, and a whole bunch of other events. Next, I want to highlight the Student Emergency Aid Committee. So this is an emergency aid committee that we are super excited and privileged to have at Holy Cross. So if there is an emergency that a student needs, everything from moving to Massachusetts from California and it's cold and you need help buying winter gear, or there's an emergency at home and you need a bus ticket or a plane ride home, you're able to apply for emergency funding. And so that is an amazing resource that I highlight whenever I have the ability to. And the next, I'm going to kick it off to David to talk a little bit about the Alumni Network.
Yeah, a lot of great resources already on the Hill, and a lot of them that I benefited from being on in Odyssey, becoming an Odyssey mentor, getting help from the Lending Library. There's a bunch of resources, and being part of HG First Scholars was always just trying to get that information out to everyone so that they knew. And so now, as an alum, what I kind of focus on, right, is supporting the student experience, right, by being able to be in places like this and share my experience with you students and some prospective students, hopefully. And then also making sure that, especially our seniors, as they begin to kind of transition out of the college and into real life, that they have a place to go to, right? That has, we're working on trying to get resources like we have at Holy Cross in terms of mentoring, community, and a place where they can feel supported, right? If they don't have that back at home or wherever they land post graduation. And so it's really rewarding trying to connect people with each other from different industries, from different fields, different age groups. I've talked with alums from the class of 1980s and the 70s, right? And learning what being a first gen back then was and how that's so different now, and kind of seeing that same experience transcend all these years and decades. And it's really really special and really for lack of a better word, cool, right, to see all these different people and be able to work with them. And so my hope is that kind of going forward, I'm able to establish a really powerful mentor network, right? So that some of our kids, as they leave, have an older first gen alum that can help them, saying, I'm the first in my family to do X job, or I'm the first in my family to have, a job in the business world. Like, what do I do? What do I wear? How do I act? What do I need? And there's going to be someone there, like at Holy Cross when they were students, that will guide them through everything as much as they can.
David, thank you so much for talking about that mentorship. And as we're building that alumni network for first gen folks, I do want to share another resource, which I am going to also drop in the chat. It's a breakout from the website that I dropped earlier, but that is our HC First Mentor Network. So while students are here at Holy Cross, there is a starting list of faculty and staff across campus who either identify as first generation college graduates or are huge allies to the community. So this is a great landing space as you are navigating as a student and taking classes, or you're not sure who to go for support or to ask a question, or you're nervous. This is a great page to go through. You can see the faculty, staff, get access to their emails, and what offices or departments that they work in. With this, I'm going to transition to my next question. Since all of us here identify as first generation college graduates, if you could reflect back, what is a hard lesson or a lesson that you learned during your time at college that you'd like to share?
I guess I'll start. For me, a big one was navigating student loans. Never having done it, not knowing what a good loan was, not really realizing at 18 years old, or 17 actually when I started, is what's a good loan versus a predatory loan. My parents didn't know. They tried their best, but they didn't know. And I think for me, the hard lesson was not knowing what I didn't know, right? Like, you don't even realize that you need a piece of information that's missing, right? And if I could go back to the question before, is about resources. In that sense, the best resource is the people around you, right? Like the community itself, from your first year advisor. So shout out to first year advising, because make friends, let them help you. But also, like, the wealth of resources you've just been giving, there's gonna be a point where you have all these resources and you don't know which one is for what thing, right? Somebody is gonna have to point you in those right directions. So not to be overly Socratic, but realizing I don't know anything and not knowing that I didn't know anything. And there was all these other things that I needed to know was the hardest lesson. And it took me probably until I graduated to get that.
I can go next. So one lesson that I learned in college, I was probably a little late, is really the importance of office hours, to be honest. You know, part of my work on campus is to encourage students to use the resources, including office hours. And I was one of those students that, you know, was very, you know, timid when it came to asking for help, right? Asking for help, you know, requires a sense of humility. And I think that's something that we just need to learn really early on, just being humble and understanding that it's okay that you don't know everything. People are here to help you. And so I wish I had gone to office hours because it wouldn't have been as awkward like later on in life or later on in my time in college when I needed to ask for a letter of recommendation, right, for grad school or different opportunities. So I encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to learn from your faculty who are really there not just to teach you, but to support you and mentor you. And encourage you. So I really encourage, you know, all the, you know, students and, you know, families supporting students to, you know, take advantage of office hours.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. I was one of those students who, you know, I was so focused on doing everything myself and just going at it headstrong. And I'm like, I can do this. And when I eventually hit those walls where I didn't know and I needed help, and I was a little bit too stubborn to be like, I don't want to go to office hours, or I don't have time. Later on, you know, during my, you know, sophomore, junior, and senior years, I would always go to office hours to, you know, not only get help, but, you know, as you go through your 4 years at Holy Cross, you realize that you start to build some relations with certain professors, right? And it becomes not just going to office hours to, you know, get support on a homework, on how to study for a test, etc., right? But also kind of have that conversation and have that, you know, relationship building that helps you get through, you know, the tough times that, you know, when you're, you know, in the middle of midterms or finals or something happens. I think my one, I guess, tough lesson, I guess, is time management. You know, quickly, like, in high school, everything's always structured for you, right? And it's really easy to follow schedule, right? At Holy Cross, when you're a college student, you can do whatever you want, obviously, you know, go to class, but, you know, there's no structure of when to do homework or when to do extracurriculars or when to go eat. And so at the very beginning, right, I was doing a little bit too much, right? I was just enjoying the experience, and then started noticing that I was faltering in some areas in like my classes, or I was not getting enough rest. And so kind of learn how to manage everything, because, you know, college isn't solely about the academics, right? It's about being there and being part of the experience, especially at a place like Holy Cross, where it's a liberal arts, you know, program, and it's about educating, you know, the whole person, and coming out of that experience, you know, ready to, you know, contribute to the world to make it a better place. And you don't get that unless you actually take care of yourself, but also experience everyone and everything around you. And so that's one of the hard lessons I learned, is to do that, but also rely on the people around you to help lift you up.
Can I add something to that about the office hours thing? Great point. Totally essential. Like, especially what Kelly said about being humble, like, just go to office hours, you know, get your question answered, get that feedback. So I'll say two things just to sort of add to that. One, don't presume that going to get feedback from your professor in office hours means you are somehow not doing as well, right? Like, all those students you're trying to keep up with are going to office hours, right? The best students are going to office hours not to make up a deficiency, but to improve on what they already do, right? It's just free training. It's extra attention. Like, it's not, don't think that by going to office hours, you're admitting some kind of defeat, right? And secondly, as someone who holds office hours, all I'm doing in there is working. Please interrupt me. I don't want to do none of that stuff. Like, I'd much rather talk to you. So come to office hours.
I would say the same thing is true for, you know, using, you know, other academic resources like tutoring, right? It's not because you have a deficiency, but you are trying to improve and, you know, ensure your academic success. I always tell students, the students who are getting A's in the class are the ones that are still going to tutoring and making sure that they, have a mastery of the topic or just doing the best that they can. So please don't be afraid to use the resources available to you. They're there for a reason.
Thank you all. David, I want to go back to something. It was a perfect segue. I think as first generation college students, we have one goal, right? We got to college, now we need to graduate college. But you pointed out here at Holy Cross, we're a liberal arts institution. I would love to hear if folks can share a bit about the importance of getting involved all across campus and the importance of extracurriculars, whether that be work-study working on campus, student involvement, study abroad, internships, summer research. Can we share a little bit about that?
Guess I'll go again. Yeah, I think, from my time as a student, especially when I was a senior, I had met so many people who were so dedicated to their studies, which is really good, right? They were doing really well in class, but a lot of the times I didn't get to interact with them that much because I only saw them in class or I only saw them in the library, which is fine, right? But it's also important to get involved, right? Because Holy Cross is supposed to be your home, right? Your home away from home. And if all you do is just go to class and then go to your dorm or go to the library and then go to Kimball to eat, right? You're not interacting with others. And there's so many amazing people at Holy Cross, right? Like you have the Office of Multicultural Education, academic success, a plethora of really interesting professors that have such great stories and, great advice for you. You don't get that unless you go out and introduce yourself or go out and get out of your comfort zone. My personal stories is I came from a Catholic high school, right? I did sports my entire time there. That's the only thing I did. And then my first semester, there was the Student Activities Fair, which is an event that happens in the fall. So like all the student organizations and clubs like get a table and all the students, especially the first year students, are invited to come and check it out, see what they want to get involved in. And my freshman year, I was just walking around, looking at what they had. And one of my friends pulled me to the ballroom dance table. Of all the things I could have possibly imagined doing as a college student, ballroom dance never even crossed my mind. I didn't even know it was a thing. But, I was like, sure, why not, right? And I ended up doing it. I went the next week to, one of their practices. I ended up loving it. Like all the people I met there, I'm still really close friends with. A lot of, close mentorship relationships came out of that. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go out of my way and become part of that small little aspect of Holy Cross, right? And there's all those small little clubs exist throughout the entire campus, from the the a cappella groups to the affinity groups to theater, music, the different club sports, like anything. And it's amazing how many different people you can meet and how many of those different people you can keep and stay connected with throughout your time there, and then even now as an alum.
If I could add to that, as an advisor though, I do want to caution you not to overdo it right away, right? Ease your way in so you get that first semester, first 2 semesters, we get a good grounding, but those don't have to be separate, right? You can expand your horizons through your course selections, right? If you're a math major, take an art class. If you are a lit major, take computer science. If you're a theater major, take whatever the opposite of theater is. I'm blanking. But there are ways to do that without eating up all your study time. Now, David and Kelly are right. Like, you do want to integrate into the community. This is a special time. Just don't rush it, because remember, you still have to come to class, and you still got to save time for office hours.
Agreed. Take your time. Yes, the 4 years will go by quickly, but you do have a lot of time to experience a plethora of opportunities. I would just say with the co-curricular piece, all of those things exist to enrich your experience at the college. So, hopefully when you do attend Holy Cross, that you're not just going to class and going back to your room, right? And, all students who start at Holy Cross start off as undecided. Even if you have an idea of what you want to do, you're all undecided when you start. And if you truly are undecided, getting involved in certain activities or experiential opportunities might inform what you want to do on campus or in the future. So definitely take advantage of the opportunity to do these activities. And also it's a great way to build community and meet people.
So going off of what Dr. J and a lot of folks were talking about is sometimes it's hard to balance the rigorous academics with the co-curriculars, taking care of yourself and your personal life. Was it hard for you all communicating with your family during your time on college, especially as it relates to your needs and stressful times during the semester and all of that entailing?
I can start. So I'm first generation college student, but also first generation American. So my parents are originally from Haiti. So yes, they understand English, right? But there's still that language barrier. And so the concept of college was like, you go and you get a good job and, we're good, right? But they don't really understand what college entails. College is hard. And it's so important that you find a support system, and I think your family, obviously, that's your built-in support system for the most part, but it's so important that you find your support system on campus because unfortunately, it might be really difficult for them to understand the experience that you're having while you're a student on campus. They don't understand that you're taking 4 or 5 classes, taking these exams, trying to get involved on campus. Maybe you have a work study position, right? And so it can be a lot for them to try and process. They know that you're working really hard, but they don't really understand the nitty gritty. So yes, it can be challenging at times to communicate with your family, your needs, but just know that you do have a support system within the community, and you should just let your parents or your family know that you're working hard, you're trying to make yourself proud, but also trying to make them proud. And if they don't hear from you all of the time, it's okay, it's because you're busy, but just know that there are people out there that are looking out for you on campus as well.
Yeah, I think that, I'm an immigrant. Me and my mom immigrated here when I was really little. And trying to explain a lot of college related things was always hard for her, right? Because, her English isn't too great. And so she kind of gets things, but then I also have to kind of just try to translate them in Spanish. And so, when it's my freshman year and I'm only taking 4 classes, right? Well, why are you only taking 4 classes? And I'm like, well, because that's what I'm allowed to do. These are actually hard classes. I can't take like 6 or 7 like they do in other institutions, right? It's not like I'm just wasting my time here. I'm actually taking challenging courses, right, that require the extra study time away from like just being in the classroom, right? And then there's also trying to explain to her like, what's a Montserrat? And I'm like, well, so it's just class I take. It only counts for 1 credit. What's a credit? I need to take classes that count towards 1 thing. So why don't you just take them all? I can't because I'm only allowed 4, but I have to take a certain number of type of each class. But I'm also having a major. This is what I want to do, and it requires me to take these extra classes. And so it kind of builds up. And so it's a little bit of a disconnect, especially when my mom, when she went to college back in Colombia, right? It was just, she went to class, she went to the library, she did work in Colombia. Like she went to like this like Catholic, college where they had nuns and stuff. So they were really strict apparently. So which is completely different, right? Because while my mom probably spent her time, in the books and studying and the library, right? I'm doing other things, like I'm studying, but I'm also studying like online sometimes. I'm not always in the library. I'm just studying with a group of friends. I'm going to a pal, right, to help me with like my chemistry homework or something like that. And it's very different. And then the other half, since I actually live on campus, right, I get to experience life. And so I get to go dance for a couple hours, and then that's okay. And then I also get to wake up at like 11 o'clock and go down to Kimball and eat breakfast, because that they have breakfast all day. At least they have cereal, you know. So it's kind of those different aspects and nuances of what's it like to live on campus, what's it like to take these different classes, that when it comes to, you know, your family who doesn't know these things and especially has never experienced it for themselves, can become hard to connect with. And, you know, what Kelly said is, it's, you know, it's hard to have that disconnect, but it's easy to find your people on campus and also help rely on them to like kind of get you through it. But then also realize that, like, yeah, they don't understand, and that's fine, right? Like, you are the trailblazer in your family, right? Everyone after you is going to know what it's like, and you're not going to have to go through this you know, tumultuous period, and that's okay. And so as long as you have your people on campus and the people you can go to, you're going to be a-okay.
I guess for me, and like you guys, my parents were immigrants, language barriers, the whole thing. Your story is so much like mine. I think for me, the biggest challenge was, I guess, logistical slash financial. So I lived 2 hours from home, which isn't a crazy amount of time, but at the same time, it's far enough where my family can't help me out in the sort of typical everyday kind of ways. And when you don't have a community yet, it's very easy to feel stranded, especially when you come from, I guess, humbler roots like I did. And sometimes would you just, your problem could be solved with 20 bucks and you're afraid to ask for it. So I think the fact that Holy Cross has so many things in place to help out with things like books and stuff, I think is essential. And talk about like not understanding, when I had to explain why I needed a $100 chemistry book when I'm an English major, was a hard sell and a hard buy, you know? So, and the community is what helps you sort of deal with that stress.
Thank you all for that. I love that you just shared that, Dr. J, because I think in my experience, though, you know, there wasn't necessarily a language barrier between my parents, myself, and the institution. I was a Division I athlete, right? And so for me, I was a walk-on though. I didn't get scholarships. There became this kind of crossroads for me where I have to start paying for college, and having that conversation with my family and not understanding, you know, the importance of the sports, the structure it was giving me, the support network. And gratefully, I love that you brought up like just asking for help, and here at Holy Cross, they always talk about that, ask more, ask more. When I brought it to my coach and I brought my situation and my story, they were able to help out with scholarships. So I say that to say, absolutely what Holy Cross is saying, ask more, ask more, ask more. Going off a little bit about what you all were sharing, as this is a session focusing on family engagement, a lot of the participants might be families who have a student that's at Holy Cross. What tips do you have for parents or loved ones who are supporting their first-gen student as they're transitioning to college and as they're moving through Holy Cross?
I would say, I mean, even if you don't necessarily understand exactly what your student might be going through, you can still encourage them and support them, you know, in the way that, you know, works for you, right? So whether it's just sending them an encouraging text message or a note, you know, I think those things go a long way. And I remember, you know, my family couldn't really understand my experience, but, you know, I didn't live too far from home. So just dropping off food, like, you know, every once in a while, that was really special to me as well. So just know, like, even if you don't feel like you can relate to their experience, that doesn't mean that you can't, you know, be, you know, a force in their lives during their, you know, 4-year journey at the college.
Yeah, I guess I ought to say something very succinct. It'd be just have their back, you know? They're going to make choices that you don't understand or maybe you wouldn't have made, whether that be their major or their circle of friends or their study abroad, right? But they're already going to have so much pressure, because we haven't even talked about the pressure of feeling like I'm the first one, right? So I have to succeed. They're already putting that much pressure on themselves. What they need is good vibes coming in to counteract the sort of the negativity that's generated from just anxiety, right? Not even from even challenges, just from, you know, fear, from concern, from imposter syndrome. All these things are going to add up, right? So the last thing you want to do is inadvertently, because I don't think anybody would do it on purpose, but inadvertently increasing the pressure from home as well as where they are, right? So whatever that has to be, just have they back, because that's what they need.
Yeah, just understand that there's a lot of pressure and anxiety and a bunch of different things that come with being just a student, but also being a first generation student. So understanding that, you know, it'll all be okay, right? Your student, your child, your kid will have the support on campus that they need. There's resources there, and everything's going to be fine. You know, just if your student comes back from a semester and like for the first 2 days all they do is sleep, that's totally fine. Trust me, it's totally fine, right? Like we just went through finals. It's really hard, and then yes, we probably gained weight because, you know, if it's 12 o'clock at night and we're writing a paper and there's no food and we're hungry, well, so, you know, it's just be understanding. Everything's gonna be okay.
Don't let them trick you into doing their laundry, though. They could definitely do that themselves.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and thinking about something you said earlier, Dr. J, is like as first gen students, we're blazing this new trail. We're going onto this new college campus. We don't know what we don't know. So what are some key components as a first year, first gen student that they should be focusing on and be aware of?
I'll say as an advisor is don't treat your first year of college like it's 13th grade. This is a whole new ballgame, right? This is not like you might have been like the one thing I tell my students a lot is, particularly first years, is I show them a highlight reel of famous NBA players getting rejected at the rim when they're rookies. And I say, Kobe Bryant was the hot shot in high school, and then he got the ball thrown back at him his first time in the NBA, and somebody is going to throw the ball back in your face. It might be me. In fact, I hope it is, right? So remember that you're learning a whole new game, right? Don't try to think of it like it's the next start of high school. Things like picking your classes. Don't try to spread them out so they feel like high school again, right? Figure out what kind of arrangement for courses is going to best work for you so that you have time to study, so you have time to take a breather in between classes. Don't try to do, and I'm sure David could agree, is don't try to make all your classes all at once in a sprint so you can find yourself having all the time off you can because you're just going to burn out, right? You're going to have to accept that you have to learn a new way of doing things because this is not the same.
Yeah, and kind of like building off of that, you woke up early for high school. I cannot fathom like how people wake up for an 8 a.m. class, right? You woke up and were in class in high school by like 8 or something like that, waking up for an 8 a.m. class the day after you've been up late studying, really hard. I think the other important thing is some of the people on this call, like Kelly, Amie, you know, people in OME, y'all should be like this, best friends, right? Like they're there for you. They're going to help you, right? They're always willing to sit down and chat, right? Whether it's your classes, whether it's family, whether it's personal stuff, right? I can't count the amount of times I went into, you know, Amy's office or Michelle's office, right? And just kind of sat there and said like, whew, like I just need a second to breathe, to talk, right? Like there's people on campus there for you, right? And know where OME is, know where academic services is, know how to get to those places, and you'll be okay, right? Because you know that when times are getting tough, like, just take that step back, take care of yourself, and then you won't feel as much of a burnout, you won't feel so much pressure, right? And you'll make it through everything.
I don't feel like I could add much more to what was already said. I would just say, just be patient with yourself, give yourself a little grace, right? As Dr. J said, this isn't high school. This isn't the 13th grade. It's just very different. So just be patient, and, things might not go exactly the way you plan in your very first semester, and that's okay. It's a learning experience. You're going to continue to grow and, improve and learn from mistakes. So just be patient with yourself and be proud of yourself, and just remember you belong on this campus. It takes a lot to be accepted at Holy Cross. So we know that you worked really hard and you're capable of doing very well, and just know that there are people there to support you along the way.
One thing that I would also add into this is a first-year student coming into Holy Cross, like, research shows that the habits you build in those first 6 weeks of your time on college kind of stick with you during your time. So I say that and I highlight that with students a lot, because just like high school, there's going to be a lot of peer pressure, but it's so important for you to build those habits in those first 6 weeks: sleeping, taking care of yourself, focusing on your studies. Academics at Holy Cross are a lot more challenging than they are in high school. So just building those habits in early, and then finding your mentors, like David was saying, whether it's our office, academic services and learning, your first year advisor, find those people that you do feel comfortable, relate to, and you're able to ask questions, and those that you can open up to and go to when you're stressed out. So find your people and build those positive habits in the beginning. In looking at time and checking time, I want to check in if any of the participants have a question that they would like to add or ask to the panelists. Please use the Q&A chat box to drop it in there. I'll give a couple of seconds before I have 1 or 2 questions to close out with. As we're waiting to see if any come in, I have 2 questions, pretty similar. But one is, what is the biggest piece of advice that you all would give to current or incoming first-generation college students?
I'm going to repeat a theme, but the lean on your community, right? When I was a first-gen student, I didn't know any other first-gen students, right? So I didn't have anyone that just tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, you should be asking this question, or you should be going to this thing. You can skip that one, you don't need that, or this one you do need later. I had nothing like that. And Holy Cross has done a really impressive job of building that community, both formally through programs like EC First, but also informally through just interpersonal relationships and relationships between different offices and departments. So, the best question you could ask is, what should I be asking, right? And ask your peer mentor, ask your student advisor, your first year advisor, ask OME, ask Amie, ask Kelly, ask Lori and Christina in the writer's workshop. Like, what should I be asking? The second thing I'll say is, never forget that you belong here, right? You earned your spot. You earned your spot, because it's going to feel sometimes like you didn't, because people are so much better at this than you, but they don't, but they have advantages you don't, because they know someone at home who already did it, right? You're the first one. But be proud of that, but don't let that become a feeling of being undeserving, and don't deny yourself resources because you fear it'll be proof that you need help.
I think obviously everything Dr. J said, very important, right? Ask your questions, know what's important, know that you're there for a reason, right? Holy Cross wanted you at Holy Cross, and you decided to go to Holy Cross, so you deserve to be there. I think another important thing that you should do is take care of yourself, right? And not just eat healthy and sleep a lot, right? But know that you're going to be going to classes a lot, you're going to be studying a lot, right? There's times where it might feel like too much, and that's okay, right? Know that there's places you can go to on campus, right? If you need to go to counseling, you can go to counseling, right? Don't feel bad, don't feel scared, don't feel, sometimes you just need to take that step back and really take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not setting yourself up to succeed in the best way. And that's what we all want you to do, is just succeed. And I can't stress that enough, because that's one of like the hardest lessons I learned near the end of my time. And the other thing I'd say for incoming first year students, and kind of first year students in general, is the stairs don't get easier. You living on a hill, you might think that going up and down you're gonna get real fit. Trust me, it doesn't. Like, you will learn, or I would suggest you learn where all the elevators on campus are.
Very true, David. So yeah, Dr. J said, that it's so super important that you remember that you belong. And David, shared the importance of self-care. And something I always tell first year students, stay motivated, dedicated, and ready to be educated. It's something that was instilled in me, and something I carried throughout my, 4 years of college, and something I think about, even in work, right? Now that I'm a professional. But it's really important that you remember why you're pursuing this education, right? So what is motivating you? What's driving you? Stay dedicated to that purpose, right? And surround yourself with people who are going to remind you of that, so you are dedicated. And then the being, always being willing to learn something, right? There's something that you can learn every day at Holy Cross, whether it's in the classroom or in discussions that you're having in your residence halls, in student clubs and activities, things like that. So motivated, dedicated, ready to be educated, and that will help push you through your 4 years on the Hill.
Awesome. And I would close it out with just saying that on this panel, this is just 4 of the folks here on campus and off campus that are already going to be a part of your community and are ready to support you when you come here at Holy Cross, or if you're already here at Holy Cross. Like I shared, all of us identify as first generation college students and graduates. We've already blazed the trails. We've already cried. We've already put in the blood, sweat, and tears. So kind of what Dr. J said is, we're all working, and we are excited and happy for you to interrupt our day to come here, because I'll speak for myself, that is at the core of why I love my job and why I love to do what I'm doing. And it's that one-on-one, or that with a group of students who are just looking for guidance, support, and help. So with that, like I said, bookmark the First Generation College student website we have here at Holy Cross. We're trying to make that a hub of information, as well as a resource to see who are the other first gen faculty and staff on campus. Don't be afraid to reach out, find your mentors, and ask all the questions that you need, because that's part of our role, like I said. So in closing, I just wanted to thank so much the panelists for being here tonight with us, for taking time out of your day, your night, and sharing your passion for supporting first gen college students at Holy Cross. Also, I want to thank the families and parents who are here with us tonight for the session. We encourage you to go to the remainder of events in our family week here. And with that, that concludes tonight's event. Stay safe, mask up, and welcome to Holy Cross.
Sí se puede.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.